Welcome to Startup Stories by World Startup in The Hague Tech. Co-Create Future Cities is a series of exclusive online events to help you take the next step towards a more sustainable, equitable and resilient city. My name is Pelle, and in this series I will introduce you to startups who work with great passion in shaping our future cities. In this session, I'd like to introduce you to Peter Ham. He's co-founder of Finch Floating Homes. Peter, welcome. Great to have you here. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Peter, can you tell us a bit more about yourself? What's your background? Where were you raised?
I'm born here in the Netherlands, in a small town called Nieuwkoop. And I did my studies in Delft at the Technical University of Delft, starting with bachelor's in architecture, and then I did a kind of bridging program towards the civil engineering side. So I did a building engineering master's, and so that's a bit my background.
What is the problem then? Can you explain it to us?
Well, what you see there, you see it in Manila, you see it in Jakarta, and you see it in a lot of Southeast Asian cities, is that they are sinking, and that's because of the ground subsidence, and they're sinking because they are extracting a lot of groundwater from the ground, to use that for drinking water and showering, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And thereby the entire land is sinking. And in that area, it's up to 10 centimeters per year.
Wow.
And it's extremely fast. And and a lot of cities have the same problems. And because of the sinking of the land and of course the rise of the sea level, the floods are getting worse and worse.
Mm-hmm. And what does this mean for the people who live there in their houses?
Yeah, those floods and all that water come in their houses as well. So of course they face those problems every day, and they have to live with it, and they have to deal with it in a kind of way.
Okay, so then tell us a bit more about your solution, your startup. What did you invent actually?
We saw that situation there, of course, and we together with people from the Philippines, of course, we did a kind of a lot of site visits and visited homes of people and asked questions like, how is it to live here? And of course, everybody was telling us, that's a huge problem to live in those floods.
So that led you to the conclusion to develop floating homes.
Yeah, exactly. We thought, that might be a solution here. And then, of course, the question, how to build those homes. And and of course, Joran and I, we are Dutch. Mm-hmm. So how to build a home that fits in that area and that people really want to have there. Mm-hmm. So again, we went to do the site visit and ask questions to inhabitants of that area. And I think it's even more important thing that we as well did a kind of, let's say, historical analysis there and looked and we found a kind of very interesting building type. It's called the Baha'i Kubo, which literally means a cube home, and it's a kind of ancient building type. They used to live in there even before the colonial era. So but it's a very interesting building type. It's of course a low-tech building, and it's built from materials that are locally available, and it's a very simple building in its way with a huge steeply pitched roof on top of it, and there's huge openings in the facade, so it's very optimal for natural ventilation to create a very cool and comfortable indoor climate. And we made a kind of computer models to analyze all those let's say building design elements to use that in a very modern way in our building design.
So then you constructed a prototype of one of these houses. How does it work in practice?
What we did, and that was a kind of a lesson that we learned from Finch buildings here in the Netherlands, that we made use of a kind of prefab construction method. So what we did, we built on land, we built small building blocks, let's say, small building modules. And because by building on land in a dry place, we were not bothered by the floods, by the sun, and all those climate influences. So we were able to build in a climate controlled environment. And after prefabbing all those smaller building modules, so for example, when we look at the floating foundation, we use recycled plastic, those blue plastic drums. They were just locally available and quite affordable as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then with a timber frame, as well, locally available timber, we built a kind of floating module. And after constructing that on land, we were able to transport it on a small truck. So it was all, we could all just lift it by our hands, and then bring it to the vacant former rice field, place it on the water, and connect all those parts together. And thereby we were able to make a stiff, floating foundation.
And of course, it has to stand typhoons, storms, other kind of weather conditions. Yeah. Did you already test it on these conditions?
Yeah. We now have it floating for already a year, or maybe even more than a year. So we had a couple of typhoons blowing against it, and it's still floating. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
And to make it typhoon resilient, because on one hand you want to have a very open building like the Bahai Kubo, so that natural ventilation can go through it to create a comfortable indoor climate. But on the other hand, when a typhoon is coming, you really want to close everything. So we made a kind of openings that were easy to close during when the storm is coming. And as well, we use a kind of overhangs on the roof to protect the building from direct sunlight. Mm-hmm. And they can be folded inwards, so you create a kind of aerodynamic shape for the building, and thereby the wind will go more around it than it will really blow against it. So those simple measures we take to create a kind of typhoon resilient building type. Mm-hmm. And last year it survived, so that's a good thing.
Okay. And is there a family living in the floating house?
We do a couple of test rounds. So the first round is now completed, where a family of 4 people was living there for 4 to 5 months, something like that. And of course, we were asking questions and doing interviews at the end of their stay. And now the second round has started. So a new family has moved in a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And as well at the end, then we will do the interviews to really get that feedback. But still, because still we are a couple of Dutch people who are trying to invent something or trying to contribute to a solution in those areas. And of course, we work a lot together with our Philippine partners to have a good solution that fits in that area. But still, those feedback of our pilot project is very important to see if it's working or not.
Here at World Startup, co-creation is very important to get impact-driven innovations. How does it work, co-creation in floating homes development? How do you work together with other partners and clients to have these the floating home realized?
For example, during the design, we did a couple of rounds that we designed something and showed it to people there and asked them, what do they like about it and what don't they like about it. We work together with local municipalities. We work together with local contractors, of course, to build it. And I think that was the closest cooperation that we had until now. And in the Netherlands, of course, we work together between the university and the foundation Finch Floating Home. So we have a lot of co-creation in this project. And now as well, of course, because we have a lot of contact with the people who live now in the pilot home. And for our next steps as well, we work very closely together with the municipality of Hagonoy and Macabebe, which are 2 towns in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. And because we now have the plan to make 12 more homes in the city of Hagonoy in 2021. So those plans we are making together with those partners.
Talking a bit about the future of floating homes and your startup, What's your main next hurdle you have to take to bring the project further on?
Yeah, build more. So the first hurdle, yeah, like I said, is the configurations of 12 homes. Because yeah, the step from 1 to 12, yeah, you have to think of other sanitation solutions and maybe some energy solutions and all those things. How to use, how can we use rainwater? We can think of a lot of stuff to make those floating homes more sustainable and make better use of the environment. Like I said, like use the rainwater to flush toilets and all those kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So those are on the design part things that we are thinking of now.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and then to scale it up to really a floating neighborhood of, let's say, 100 homes. I think those are the really steps that we are now thinking of. And who do we need here in the Netherlands? How can we finance it? What kind of what do we do with the buildings? Do we just sell them to the municipality there, or is it kind of lease and rent structure with people there? So it's those are things for the next steps. Really scale it up and not just make a couple of homes and then stop with it, because I really think that it is a contribution to solutions in those areas, and not only in the Philippines, of course, because steps after that are, of course, to see what are other places where we can build floating homes, and then how would the design look like in other places? Because now we made use of the Bahay Kubo as inspiration, so the ancient Filipino building type. But maybe in other parts of Southeast Asia or other parts in the world, we have other ancient building types that can be an inspiration for sustainable floating homes.
Yeah, looking at the bigger picture of future cities, what do you think about the contribution of floating homes to our future cities all around the world? Is it an important step towards solving problems about floating, about surpopulation, etc.? How do you see this in the bigger picture?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like I said, there are a lot of places that have similar problems, and as well here in the Netherlands, we have always had water problems or water related problems. In many places, there's a lack of buildable land. In many places, the effects of the sea level rise are getting more and more visible. So of course, floating homes or floating cities, floating neighborhoods, floating schools, floating architecture can be a great solution in a lot of places in the world.
So if we come to an end and we look really forward to, let's say, about 3 years, where do you like to be, or what do you like to have developed with the Floating Homes project?
Yeah, I would love to have then develop the floating neighborhood in the Philippines. I would love to see that people are proud on their home situation, that they love to show their floating homes to their families and to other friends. And it would be very cool to build next to homes as well, floating schools, floating classrooms. And really first start in that area, because I think it's a very it's the perfect place to start with it. People are suffering from those floods every day now, and of course, it's our goal to contribute to a solution for that. And so over 3 years, in 3 years, I would like to see people living in a floating neighborhood.
Well, that's quite a beautiful ambition, Peter. I'd like to thank you very much for this interview and for your interesting story. And of course, I wish you a lot of good luck with floating homes. Thank you very much, and goodbye. Thank you very much for your attention. Please go to our website, cocreatefuturecities.nl. There you can learn a lot more about other startups who work with great passion in shaping our future cities.